Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is the Steve Jones Show on a Tuesday. News Radio 1070 WKOK. Matt Catrillo here with you. Steve will soon be there from the Sunbury Motors Studio. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. And online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Lincoln, Kia, Hyundai, all new pre-owned inventory. They have it all for you there at the 4th Street Auto Plaza in Sunbury, and also Ford, Lincoln, Kia, Hyundai, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, or elsewhere at sunburymotors.com. Lots to get to today. Neil Coulong's going to join us. Latest on the Steelers and NFL offseason. And believe it or not, tonight is a big week in the Flyers-Pens rivalry, as this begins one of 3 straight games against the two Keystone State foes in Pittsburgh. And they're both battling to get into that number 4 seed. Remember, each just four of the top teams in each of the 3 divisions this year because of the pandemic and the NHL are getting in. Right now, the Flyers are in pretty good shape. The Pens need to keep winning, but this is a very big set of games coming up here for both these teams. Pens playing a little bit better hockey. Flyers coming off a pair of 3-0 shutout victories against Buffalo, so they take care of business there. So there's a big series coming up, big couple of games coming up for both these teams. And Jim Jackson, the TV voice of the Flyers on NBC Sports Philadelphia, is going to join us at 4:35 today to preview that. And we hope to hear from Phil Bork later this week, too, from the Pens Radio Network. Still working on trying to see when we can get him on, but hopefully we'll get him on, get the Pens perspective on that side of things. Big one. They play tonight, Thursday night, and then Saturday night. And then the Flyers will have another game, quick turnaround Sunday against Washington. So this is a big series coming up for both these teams. So we'll talk to Jim Jackson about that in a little bit at 4:35. And then there is college basketball. Of course, Penn State's got Minnesota tomorrow. That is a 7 o'clock tip, 6:30 pregame right here on WKOK with Steve and DJ. And last night, Oklahoma State with another big win, with another big statement. Back-to-back wins against Oklahoma. I thought that was pretty impressive, and they're playing good basketball at the right time in the Big 12. Big 12 has been a very intriguing conference this year, as, of course, has been the Big 10. And speaking of the Big Ten, big one tonight with Illinois and Michigan tonight.
Carson Wentz is a cult.
That too, yes.
Just want to make sure we mention that to get the show going. Michigan and Illinois tonight. How about Rutgers last night? Are you kidding me? Went into Lincoln, and Nebraska blasted them. At one point, Nebraska's up 70-40. Okay. Nebraska's fighting to get out of last place in the Big Ten. Rutgers is fighting for a spot in the NCAA tournament. And they got blasted last night.
It's Rutgers. This is my surprise face.
Well, no, but look, it's not like they don't have good players. Miles Johnson's a really good player. Ron Harper Jr.'s a really good player. Now, Geo Baker's streaky. I mean, let's be honest about it. But you sit back and say, you've got to be kidding me. You've got everything on the line, and that's your performance? Look, and this is something where I want to be honest with people, because this is something that is very, very difficult for fans to understand. It's difficult for me to understand. Sometimes you can't get it going. Sometimes you just have that night where you just can't do it. That was last night. They couldn't do it. You sit back and you look at that and you say to yourself, are you kidding me? That's your performance? And that was Rutgers last night. I mean, when you absolutely, and see, that's where, let's take it to the NCAA tournament. So we'll take it one additional step further, okay? So let's take it to the NCAA tournament. All right? That's what's so difficult about the NCAA tournament, is that you've got to do this 6 times. 6 times you have to do this. And in doing it 6 times, and in doing this 6 times, you have to be able to look at this and say, okay, are you going to have an off night? Do you have just one of those nights, all right, where suddenly you look at it and you just don't have it? You don't have it. And if you don't have it, there's the problem. Sometimes you don't have it. Rutgers last night didn't have it. And that's what you worry about in the NCAA tournament. And let's face it, down the stretch, some teams have had it, some don't. And that is, Indiana hasn't had it. It's been a mixed bag for Michigan State. It's a conference that, quote, eats its own. And that is a huge problem. And this is why it just drives coaches crazy. Drives coaches crazy. Because you just don't know when it's not your night. You just don't know when it's not your night. And that's what just, oh my goodness, Hey, you're Steve Peichel, who, by the way, Peichel's a really good coach. And again, I said last week, I was talking about Fred Hoiberg last week. When I talked about Fred Hoiberg last week, all right, that this guy is a really good coach. They lose Teddy Allen, who can score. I mean, sometimes Teddy does nothing, and then sometimes he scores. He had 41 against Penn State. But that's one of those. I mean, you talk about Illinois and Michigan tonight. Now, the question is whether Iowa is going to play tonight. I don't know. That part I don't know. And that's That's, I think the matchup inside between Coburn and Dickinson is going to be fabulous. It's going to be fabulous tonight.
Yeah, tonight's a good TV viewing night. My clicker's going to get a workout between this game and Flyers-Pens tonight.
Yeah, no, there's no question. I don't think Crosby's playing tonight, is he?
I don't know that, actually.
I believe Crosby is out tonight.
Well, that would be a big loss for the Pens because we all know how well he does against the Flyers.
Well, look, I know the Flyers think this is a big deal. I got it, the whole blah, 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 blah. In a big scheme, it's not a big deal. No offense. It's another NHL regular season game. You're going to play each other a lot. I got it.
It's just key because this is the first of 3 in a row, and they're both and the East right now is just loaded with basically 5 good teams. Only 4 are going to get in, so these are crucial.
Well, it's only a 56-game season. That's why it's crucial.
Exactly.
I mean, that is that's the big part of it. Big part of it is the fact that it is a 56-game season. You can't. And Tristan Jarry, by the way, is playing better. Let me look and see. I don't think Crosby's playing tonight. I don't want to ruin the mood of the most intense rivalry this side of Toronto and Montreal.
It's been a fun one over the years.
It's all right. Let me see here. Sidney Crosby. Crosby out versus Flyers after going on COVID list. Hey, it's there you go. Well, the host is obviously up to date on what's going on currently. All right, great. See? The problem is that one team has won 4 Stanley Cups in the last 30 years and the other one's won none. That's a problem. That is a problem. It's not what you want to hear. I got it. But, yeah. It is what it is. Have they had some good games over the years? Sure, but it's, no offense, it's a lot like watching Michigan play Ohio State in football. For the most part, the better team wins. The better team's been in the western part of the state. Now, it may be turned around. Now, it may be on the opposite side. The Flyers are the better team right now. So we'll talk to Jim Jackson about that. And we will also hear from Neil Coulong today. We got a lot to talk about. Well, there's a list of free agents that the Steelers have. We're going to go through the entire list with him today as to whether they should sign him or not. We do the same thing with the Eagles, but I don't think Matt wants any of them back.
There's a few I'd like back, but they're not coming back. There's no decision to be made.
Well, who's that? Who do you want back?
I don't want to see Zach Ertz go, but it's just inevitable at this point.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand that. No, I get that. I understand that. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back with more in a moment. Great to have you with us today. Brought to you by Sunbury Motors here on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Great to have you with us on the show today. Brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors, Kia routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Lincoln, Kia, Hyundai, great new inventory, fabulous pre-owned inventory. Sales staff, they're ready to make deals. And a service department's ready to back the whole thing up for the life of the vehicle. It's all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Okay, no big moves in the NFL today, although Matt's already put out there the list of free agents he's ready to just bag.
It's not much of a wish list this year just because the Eagles are not going to be on that for cap reasons.
Yeah, they do have a huge cap problem. Big cap. How about Alex Smith? When you're sitting there and you've got a guy like Alex Smith, okay, and you look at him, and it was one of the truly great stories ever to have him come back. Boy, and it tells you how cold, how incredibly cold the business can be. But they're not going to bring him back. They are not going to bring him back. And that's, boy, I'll tell you, that's...
I will say this, though. If the money's right. Two, I know he wants to start still. But if they let that kind of play out and nobody touches him to be a starter and he's still out there and you can sign him as a backup to Jalen Hurts, if I'm the Eagles, I might reach out and try to see if we can work something out.
Yeah, I know. I understand that because I think he would be invaluable. He doesn't want to hear this, but he would be invaluable as a backup quarterback. Because you want your backup quarterback to have the ability to step in, and for a game or two, there is no drop-off. None. Okay? And that's, I think he'd be invaluable in that role. Remember last year in the playoff when Wentz went down and McCown came in? McCown can't do that anymore. He can't do that. And that's a big problem. Today's show brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is The Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now, from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
All right, Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, online at sunburymotors.com. Great to have you with us on the show today. Let's see here. Let's see here. Rob Steph 33. Oh, it's from Rob Blackman. Rob is one of the great guys going. Rob sent an email. I just got it, as a matter of fact. Yesterday, we talked about Larry Clisby passing away yesterday. And he passed away early Saturday morning, about 3:30, the play-by-play voice for decades of Purdue basketball. And Rob Blackman, who right now, Rob is just a great guy. Great guy. And, in fact, we should get him on the show. I've got his, you saw his email, right?
I did, yes.
Yeah, send him an email with our condolences if you could, and with the idea of getting Rob on the show. Okay, so we could just talk a little bit about him. He said he just heard I did a tribute to Larry Clisby that I sent. Learfield had asked us to send tributes so they could use it in a montage so I did mine. And Rob was saying how appreciative everybody with Purdue basketball is. That it's 38 seconds, okay? It was, obviously what we did here on the show is a lot longer. But they have an X amount of time that they needed to do it. But I appreciate that. Rob is a great guy. Great guy. And that's hard, I mean, the first time I ran into Larry, I think I said this on the show yesterday, it was 1989. That's how far back. We were both doing the Fiesta Bowl basketball classic in Tucson. And Penn State had just received an invitation to go to the Big Ten. About, I'd say, a week earlier. I remember I had Gene K. I was doing the talk show at the time, obviously not in KOK. I was doing the talk show at the time. Now, check out this lineup for the talk show. I did a talk show there because I was on scene where my guests were Gene Cady of Purdue. We had the Wake Forest play-by-play guy on who was doing a lot of work at CNN at the time, and Lute Olson. That's a pretty good lineup. I felt pretty good about that we were on the right path that particular day. But yeah, so Learfield asked me to do that. And they asked all of us. They asked Paul Keels. They asked Don Fisher. I guess Don opened his game with Indiana the other day. And was very emotional in the open about Larry. They've known each other for 40 years. Just like, and they ran into each other more than I did, because obviously Don and Larry were both in Indiana. But it's not like I hadn't known Larry for 32 years. They had. Big Ten Wrestling Championships are this weekend. Here are the pre-seeds. Spencer Lee, Iowa, number 1 seed at 125, and Robbie Howard of Penn State is number 11. That's a sneaky 11 there. This kid's got something. 133, Roman Bravo Young is the number 1 seed. Number 2 is Austin DeSanto of Iowa. Airman of Iowa is number 1 seed at 141. And for Penn State, it is Nick Lee, number 2. Lee will win that. 149, Sammy Sasso of Ohio State's really good. Bo Bartlett is a number 11 seed. 157, Ryan Dakin of Northwestern's number 1. Brady Berge of Penn State, that was a number 5 seed. Not bad. 165, Alex Marinelli of Iowa is an obvious number 1 seed. Joe Lee is a number 6. 174, Michael Kemmerer of Iowa, the obvious number 1 seed. Carter Starachi is the number 3 seed from Penn State. Aaron Brooks, obviously the number 1 seed, defending champ at 184. He's the number 1 seed, and Christopher Weiler of Wisconsin is number 2. 197, Eric Schultz of Nebraska is the number 1 seed, and Michael Beard of Penn State is, where is Michael here? Michael is the number 7 seed. And at 285, Gable Stevenson of Minnesota, the number 1 as you would expect. And Greg Kirkville of Penn State is the number 7 seed. And again, he has the door open to upset people. The door is open for him to upset people. He got in there late. He may have gotten in there late, but man, he showed when he was out there, he showed that he has something to him. At minimum, he's got something to get himself to the finals. Oh, we're going to get the old 2-9er on the show on Friday, huh, Phil Bork?
Yes, sir, on Friday. For the Penn's perspective of this big week between the Keystone teams.
Okay. I know It's hard when, like this year they are, but it's hard when they're not in the same division. They don't play each other that often. This year's different. I mean, everything is so regionalized. I mean, you notice no Canadian teams are playing American-based teams. All I know is that we're making the transition back to some level of normalcy. I mean, the normalcy that we need, we're aching for normalcy. Oh, look, see, the Red Sox lead the Rays 9-1 in the 8th inning. See, normalcy. Huh? No? Hey, I saw your guy Gary Sanchez homered the other night. Big home run.
He did, yes. Not a bad start.
Wow.
With the bat, at least.
It's great to know he's back, huh?
If he improves on his catching, then yeah.
Man, you are just consumed with hate.
I've always loved his bat. I would expect nothing less.
Big home run. Spring training game. Didn't count. Big home run.
And Jameson Taillon did pretty good in his Yankee spring training debut, too.
Meanwhile, Garrett Richards, in his debut with the Red Sox, they instituted the mercy rule.
Whoops.
The rule allows teams to prematurely end an inning if a pitcher has thrown more than 20 pitches. Garrett, Braves, done. You'd only thrown 23 pitches. They're like, God, no, we're out of here. We're leaving. Final was 5-3, by the way. But they just, the mercy rule is so the pitcher doesn't throw too many pitches in an inning, especially your early starts. You don't want that happening. You just don't want that. The big story, Aaron Nola and Jack Flaherty for the Phillies and Cardinals need big bounce-back years. I told you the story about the did I tell you the story about the student in my class who turned in a preview of the Phillies? Did I tell you that story?
Oh, yeah, he told us that yesterday. Yeah, that was awesome. That was really funny.
He had the great Joe Girardi soundbite in it.
On the bullpen? Yeah, that was great.
He says, look, I think our odds would have been just as good if we just told them what the pitch was ahead of time. That's just really, that's awesome. That is awesome. Oh, look, the Texans released Josh McCown. Well, I tell you, he could go back to Philadelphia, huh?
No thanks.
So everything is negative. Negative. Is this how you are?
He did an admirable job.
I feel like I'm talking to little Luke when he turns 2 years old. Do you want food? No. Do you want to walk? No. You want to crawl? No. Wait till you guys get to the no stage. No. Everything's going to be no. No. It's the way it's going to be, I'm telling you. Huh? All you parents out there, am I telling the truth? Huh?
We've been doing our best to avoid the N-O word, so he doesn't pick on it.
It's going to happen. It's easy to say. It's easy to say. And then some people, right? They never lose the habit. Sue, we need a little more money. No. We need somebody. No. We'd like to do the show on location. No. I'm telling you. These are your people. Okay? Some people, they never lose the ability to say no. Right?
That's right.
You know I'm telling the truth. You know I'm telling the truth. All right. We will come back with more in a moment. Great to have you with us today on the show as we continue on News Radio 1070 WKOK. All right, great to have you with us on the show today. Our News Radio 1070 WKOK. Neil Coulong in the next half hour. Looking forward to having Neil on the show as we get through another good one today. And then Jim Jackson, the final half hour. Matt is all hepped up about this Flyer thing. Man, you are ready to fly on the Flyers here.
I am. I am fired up for this week.
Yeah, no Sidney Crosby, by the way. Crosby, gone. On a team that struggles to score anyway. He is not a part of the mix right now. So, it's a COVID. By the way, it's COVID. By the way, it's COVID related. That is what. That's the problem. So that is the problem with El Cid. It's COVID-19 related. Now, whether he's out for an extended period of time, I don't know. And that's what. But if he's out tonight, that's a big one. He's out tonight. Is he out the entire series of 3 games? And that's the part we don't know. But we do know he's not playing tonight. Jim Jackson will be out. The Flyers have been playing really well. Let's give credit where credit's due. The Flyers have been playing very, very well. And is it distressing for you, for example, that that Carson Wentz is a Colt, Gary Sanchez homered? I feel like there's a lot of things not going right for you right now.
I like Gary Sanchez homering yesterday.
Okay. I just want to...
Yeah. I'm totally fine with that.
Okay. I just want to make sure. It's one of those things. I just want to make sure. Because you get mad about a lot of things lately. So I just want to make sure you're okay. Oh, goodness gracious. I worry about you, that's all.
I know.
Yeah. I begged you to get therapy. The Alex Smith thing, by the way, bothers me. I mean, that bothers me. I mean, I know it's a business, but man, I don't know.
I just think the Redskins are stupid to begin with.
Well, there's a lot of things they don't do right.
This is just another one of them.
Well, I mean, I know Rogers a huge fan of the team, but to be honest with you, I'll be honest with you, I think they're a hard team to root for. I really do. I think they're a hard team to root for. And the reason that I think they're a hard team to root for is that they make moves like this where you sit back and go, come on. Really? This guy's the best story you had all year. The best story.
Besides Ron Rivera, too.
Yeah, besides Ron Rivera. Obviously, Ron Rivera was a great story, too. I mean, I got that. Okay? But, man, you sit there and you say, you got to be kidding me. And I just don't. I mean, Taylor Heineke's your guy?
Exactly.
Then he signed what? 2 years, $8 million, something like that. I mean, the number he signed for made sense. It wasn't like it didn't make sense. but in Smith was talking about how there's a lot of people that didn't want him back in the organization. Hi.
Yeah, that's ludicrous. I mean, there was nothing better than him for their quarterback situation. I get his injury history. I said that before, but again, what's going to be better at quarterback than Alex Smith and worrying about his injury history?
All right.
You're going to rely on Taylor Heineke, who played a decently good game against Tampa in your game you still lost at home in the playoffs.
Right. I know. And I have I just have a problem with the way the whole thing's going down. And I just don't like how the whole thing's going down with them. And it's just, I think the whole thing is wrong. I just think the whole thing is wrong. I don't know. I mean, I know it's $15 million. Again, I get the business part. Nobody gets the business part as well as I do. My goodness, we talk enough business on this show all the time with various people. So the business part, yeah, I get it. But right now, you have a public relations problem. And next season, 2021, I think there's a very good chance you're going to be allowed to have 100% attendance in football stadiums. I really believe that. So you're going to keep turning off your fan base? I mean, they've already reduced the number of seats that are available at FedEx Field. I mean, that place used to seat 80 to 90,000. And I want to say now there are only 57,000 seats available because they tarp off the upper deck because they know they're not getting people to come in. I'm not saying he's your best option. I don't know if he's your best option. I mean, maybe they draft their best option. I have no idea. None. Well, great to have you with us on the show today. Brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Here on News Radio 1070 WKOK. When it comes to car buying, there's the other guy's way, and then there's the SMC way. The other guys force you into a vehicle you really don't want. The Sunbury Motors way lets you take the time you need to browse, ask questions, and take the test drive and think on it. For over 100 years, the Mertz family and all their employees have made your experience the most pleasant one you'll ever have. The other guys won't offer you the best price for your trade, no matter how much they say they will. The SMC way is their promise to provide you with the most money the market shows your vehicle is worth. The SMC way is to offer you all applicable factory rebates on new vehicles and generous discounts. Looking for a pre-owned vehicle? The SMC way checks each vehicle in a 200-mile radius to determine the lowest price, then beat it. It's the lowest price promise, just part of the SMC way. The choice is up to you. The other guy's way or the SMC way. The SMC way wins every time. Sunbury Motors Company in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and at sunburymotors.com. Selling more cars and satisfying more customers for over 100 years.